Welcome back to the channel, fellow aviators. I thought we would do something a bit different and just go ahead and start at the aircraft. We have all seen the on-air start screen a lot. We'll check in later at the very end to check out our cash flow to see how we're doing, which is important because this aircraft has to go back for maintenance. I think it's its annual inspection in like 10 days. So I have very little time with this aircraft left, which is okay, as I think it's time to move on. This has been a great aircraft, but let's move on to something bigger and faster. Anyways, I am located in northern Brazil, which was what I was trying to do to check out the new world update. The goal is to get down to Rio. I'll probably need a couple flights to get down there, but we are underway. I have definitely noticed, maybe it's just this airport, but flying through kind of Guyana, Venezuela, southern Colombia, all the airports seem to be fairly generic. Really no buildings. If there was a building, just kind of a square building hangar looking thing. This is my first time getting down here when I landed, off camera, of course. And I've noticed already an improvement. Maybe it's just this airport, or because of the world update, they are looking better. But having said that, let's just go ahead and get the aircraft started up. And I will, as we do that, I'm sure I will be telling you about my very exciting week, and it actually was. All right, so I'm just gonna use my honeycomb here, but the very first thing we want to do, as always, we'll test that, switch it to the on position, and then I'm just gonna go ahead and get these all up and ready to go. Make sure my beacon is on. It is. Come down here. We're just gonna wait. We could start now, but in practicality sense, you would never try to start the aircraft with non-functioning PFDs. So I'll just wait 15, 20 seconds or so. There we go. All right, we'll head back up here and we will just switch our igniters on. We'll go into the run position and then we will go ahead and start. And we'll come back here and monitor. All right, we got NG increasing. Perfect.
Your flight will be monitored until you land and shut down the engines.
Yep, so I've already got us all tracked up and ready to go with OnAir. At this point, we're just looking for the aircraft to get fully stabilized. As always, this is where the shameless plug comes in. I appreciate all the support. If you would please leave a like, subscribe, comment. It really helps out my small channel. Now let's see what we got up here. Just a little bit more, and I think we will be able to turn off the igniters. Yeah, right about there. That looks good. And we'll just come up here, flip on our seatbelt signs, no smoking, our pulse, and then use my Bravo for that. Get everything up. Get the taxi light ready to go. Turn the igniters off. Oops, all right. Turn the igniters off and head back to here. All right, let's see if we can. Well, we can do this one of two ways. We could come over here and put our flight plan in, or we can just simply bring our EFB up and we will send the route to the avionics. There we go. Just a bit of real quick on sim brief. Get rid of that. And then we just want to come down here. We're going to want to activate. Turns to white. Perfect. And then we can drag out here. And you can see we're going to be kind of going. This is actually the SID. And heading back down to further south. All right. So that looks good. Like I said, there's really not a lot to do on this aircraft. We can, as we're getting ready to go, so I don't forget, I can bring my altitude up. We got about 500 miles to go, most of which I will do off camera. You're welcome. But let's go up. I'm going to probably want to go up as high as I can. We'll choose, I can go all the way up to 26, but we'll choose, we'll call that 28,000. That looks good. All right. And I think the next thing I want to add, maybe we'll do that when we go to Rio. I think the goal is to try to get this aircraft down to Rio de Janeiro. Hopefully I have time. I'm actually heading out to training every 6 months. I go out to Denver for a check ride. So I have to go in a couple days. I'm not sure if I'm going to be able to get this aircraft down here off camera or not, or maybe I'll do one more episode for the following week. But we'll see if we can get it down to Rio de Janeiro. And from there, we're going to switch out aircrafts. And what I was going to say, though, is I think maybe we need to start adding in either Say Intentions or was it Beyond ATC? I've used both of them. I've had mixed reviews on both. That's okay. It's been probably a good solid month, but I would definitely like to add a little bit more realism into our series here. And we will, like I said, we'll be picking up definitely a different aircraft. I have one in mind. I'm just not sure if that's the one I'm going to get. It's not a surprise. I think I'm going to choose the King Air. And we'll move over to a twin engine, twin turboprop. Should be a little bit faster. I think it carries about the same amount of people or slightly more than the Pilatus here. And that's it. All right, so let us get out to the runway. We're going to have to back taxi. That's going to be the plan. And I will just meet you out there as we're ready to go. Time quick montage to ensue. Okay, back with you. Just runway, facing down the runway. Let's go ahead and select flight level change. But since I know a lot of times we'll go ahead and we'll sync up our heading, we're going to want to stay in nav mode because we're actually going to be on the SID. All right, let's make sure we got our first notch of flaps in. Other than that, we are ready to go. Release brakes. These plastic rudder pedals. I'll be happy when I get my new stuff. It should be any time now. Okay, track right down center. Get looking a little better. And come up on 80 knots. Go ahead and rotate.
Airborne time logged.
Right into the command bars. Gear up. I believe this is the Nile. Not the Nile, what a dumbass. The Amazon. Good God. The Nile. Yikes. There, check out the scenery. And we'll just go ahead and engage the autopilot. Release a little pressure here. Alright. Gear up, flaps are up. All right, so anyways, it's been an exciting week at work, both here on the content creation side and my actual job. Content creation side, just started iRacing again. Hopefully that video might actually come out today. Not necessarily the day I record this, not the day this is getting released. And the other, so hopefully you give that a watch, give it a shot. I am exceptionally competitive. So there's a part of me that wants to go out there and try to win races. On the other hand, I literally have no idea what I'm doing. My knowledge of racing comes from watching some on TV and having a driver's license. That's about it. So learning how to get the proper racing line, trail braking, all brand new stuff. So I'm excited actually to kind of go through that process. I've got the Moza, is that the R5 force feedback on a next level racing stand. Generic pedals, cheap, just spring-loaded pedals, which I of course am going to blame for the reason I'm not currently winning any of my races. I'm hoping to probably at some point upgrade, but my priority is upgrading stuff for this channel. As I mentioned, I do have, I don't know if you guys remember, I do have a brand new set of Virtual flight controls coming in. I've got the rudder pedals, which will be useful for helicopter. I have a base, and what else? I've got a couple other things. I got the grip, all sorts of stuff. Really, it was to kind of try to get into helicopters. That, I think, was supposed to be here at the end of last month, so maybe I'll call them today and see what's going on with it. Apparently, they had a plane crash out in Lithuania where they make everything, and it had a bunch of their components on it. But supposedly, they've completed all that, got all the parts all back, and so they said everything's supposed to be getting shipped out now. So, one thing we can do, though, is we're cruising out at 140 knots. We have a long way to go. There's probably a good debate here on whether you should try to get up as fast as you can and then accelerate, or continue to accelerate on the way up. Even in the real world, I tend to accelerate on the way up. So I like going faster. So what we'll do is go ahead and dial over here to manual mode select, and then we can go from, let's say, 150 to, let's see, actually I have to change my setting on my Bravo. Maybe climb out just a bit faster. 160. As we come over here, I mean, we're already looking at this flight's going to be, be a bit. All right. We have a disco in here someplace. For that. See one. Top climb listed in there. 10, 42, 52, 2 hours, 54 minutes to get to where we're heading. It's about 500 miles to the south. As I said, so I have a whole set of Virtual controls with the goal of doing some helicopter work. I'm excited about that. I need to get a cockpit for it. It's not going to just attach this creaky-ass game chair that I have that you can always hear every time I move. So I need to get a cockpit. I'm looking at either, once again, next level racing or the SimFab stuff. I'm leaning towards the SimFab just because it is built with helicopters in mind, and the next level racing stuff, as nice as it is, and it really is. All right, coming up over 10,000 feet. Let's go ahead and get our landing lights off. As good as it is, you have to kind of jerry-rig the flight controls, which is kind of lame. All right, so we are on, I think this is the EDP-1 Alpha departure out of here. Doesn't matter, I didn't tell you what airport we're out of, so you're never going to be able to look up it. It was actually just a really simple SID, which was kind of runway heading for a couple miles, make a right turn up into a point here, Bodiak, and then continue down to, pick up an airway a little bit further south and head down to the airport. So that's what's going on with the content creation. Starting night racing, looking forward to releasing some of those. I don't know how the community is going to react to this. Hopefully some of you, I think there's a lot of similarities between the sim side of racing and flying. But I'm excited to do that. And then on the professional side, actually, I did have a little bit of excitement as I was doing what I thought. Let me just clear this message here. Compare fuel quantity. Should come over to here. 5. Should have just reset fuel. Do that now. I'm trying to get out of here. Is there any other messages? Clear that. Okay. I was doing it pretty easy, just a Philly to New Orleans flight. And of course, I jinxed myself by thinking it was going to be easy. So I got about maybe 180 miles into the flight, and it was my leg I was flying. And the flight attendant from the back calls up and says, "Hey, we have one of our flight attendants, she moved from the A position, that's the one that's up front, that's greeting all the passengers. She moved out to the back because she was back of the plane because she wasn't feeling very well." Okay, great, thanks. And then they called me up another 5 minutes later and said, "Yeah, she's not doing really good at all." And she starts telling me, "Oh, she's sweaty, her pulse is normal. We gave her some orange juice." I'm like, "Wait a second, are you giving me a medical report on our flight attendant?" And she's, yeah, we are. And of course, I've got the one that's becoming incapacitated is the only senior flight attendant we have on board. The other ones are literally on their second, maybe third flight. And so they are completely confused. So they don't give me the right terminology. Not a big deal to figure that out. So I'm like, "Wait, are you giving me a medical report? Like, you need me to call StatMD?" And they're like, "Oh, yes." So StatMD is a service that I think just about almost all the airlines, just increase our power a little bit as we get a little bit higher. Just about that all the airlines use. And what that is, we have a medical doctor on call, and then once we call them, we release liability from us. So it's very standard. Anytime anyone gets sick on a plane, if it's brought to our attention, we'll go ahead and call StatMD. We patch through San Francisco radio. So a little bit of a delay, but we'll go ahead and patch through, and then the doctor will basically, we have a small emergency medical kit. If there's another doctor or medical professional on board, they can open it up. The flight attendants are trained to do basic kind of first aid kind of things. You cut your finger, they can give you a Band-Aid. If you got a headache, they can give you like some aspirin. But other than that, they really can't do a whole lot. Anyways, so once you call StatMD, though, they take medical liability for the passenger, which is, of course, what the airline wants. They don't want captains making any decisions, and nor do I want to particularly. But they will tell you whether you need to, we'll tell them where we're at, and depending on the severity, and mostly we get a lot of heart attacks, that kind of stuff. They will tell us if we can continue to the destination, if we need to divert, like right now. So, but the issue for us is, even though she's becoming incapacitated, I am now short a flight attendant, and flight attendants, definitely not particularly good to look at my airline, but they are required to be on board, right? We need one flight attendant for every 50 passengers, and so now we are short a flight attendant. And so the problem is New Orleans is not a base for us, which means if we get to New Orleans with an incapacitated flight attendant, let's go ahead and just pull standard, pass it through 18.1. We're not going to be able to leave. And so I'm coordinating with StatMD, with my flight attendants who are dribbling out the information I need. I've given the first officer, he's taken the plane, he's taken the radio communications, but he was relatively new. Did a fine job, but it's a little bit chaotic up there. We're trying to figure out if we're going to do a return. My dispatch is not responding to me. I'm hurtling away at 500 miles an hour the wrong way. And finally, I think I'm texting dispatch through our onboard airplane computer. And finally, after the third time letting them know that the flight attendant was incapacitated, I'm like, hey, we are not going to be able to return if this continues. At which point they say, oh, no, you got to come back to Philly. You know, as a captain, I have a lot of discretion on how I want to run the flight. But things like doing a air return for a non-mechanical, that's really not on me. That has to be on them. I don't get to just unilaterally decide, I don't think I want to fly anymore. So I kept trying to push them in the right direction. Finally, they made that happen, and of course, then once that happens, we have to slide back into ATC, make a U-turn, and I say slide in, but slide into the arrival process. So it was just a little bit chaotic. It wasn't that big of a deal. By the time we returned, we were under max gross landing weight, so I didn't have to do anything special or run a different checklist. We just resumed the arrival where we would normally, we do this arrival all the time, so it wasn't that big of a deal. Anyways, the very next day, I got a call from our critical response team, wanting to know how I was dealing with the stress of the air return. And I just kind of chuckled. What stress? I mean, it was just, we had to make a U-turn, and it was chaotic for a while, of course, as, I'm talking to Stat MD, and of course the doctor's not available, so I'm now relaying it through the San Francisco radio. I'm getting updates on the flight attendant's condition. So go ahead and continue to speed up just a little bit here. So it was just, a chaotic, but I didn't think it was particularly stressful. He wanted to know if I was sleeping okay, how I was dealing with the stress. I was trying not to be rude. But I'm like, I used to fly helicopter medevac for 13 years where people were literally dying, missing parts of their face and jaw completely missing and shot up and all sorts of stuff, just blood, puke, vomit everywhere, fecal matter. I mean, it was just horrendous at times. I'm like, I'm really okay with a flight attendant having an anxiety attack in the back or whatever she was going through. So anyways, I got more of a chuckle out of that. But it was a little exciting. They still made me do the damn flight later, so we just came back, dropped off the flight attendant. They had medical waiting for her. I'd called and organized that. They had a brand new flight attendant. She stepped on board the aircraft. We refueled, refiled, and we're back underway. So that was my week this week. And then I did like a Raleigh turn. So I did two flights this week. I went down to New Orleans and then did Raleigh, which is literally like an hour from Philadelphia out and back. So I'm off for a couple days, and then I head to Denver for like 3 days. Day there, day back, and then 1 day for my check ride. This is my simple one. The check ride's the same, but this is this 6-month rotation is technically called proficiency training. So theoretically, you shouldn't be able to fail it, but you can. The next one's a little bit more serious. It's the proficiency check, and that tolerance is a little bit tighter. So if I make a mistake on this, they're not necessarily going to fail it. They would just rerun the maneuver. If I make a mistake on the maneuver, we do it again. So it takes a little bit of the pressure out. As I think I mentioned before, during an actual check ride, or even this one too, right? If you fail it, much like syphilis, it will stay with you for the rest of your life. You'll always have to report that. So you don't want to do that. And on top of which, there is a whole mechanism at the airline. If you fail a check ride, you need to get remediated. But then if you fail another check ride within I think it was 24 months, they put you on like double secret probation, and then a third check ride failure will be an automatic termination. So there is significant amount of pressure when you go into these things not to fail. But there's significant pressure about being an airline pilot, so you shouldn't wilt under pressure. So I really don't mind so much. But it is kind of in the back of your mind as you're going through the check ride, like, man, I screw this up, I'm out of a job. I'll be working at Home Depot as a door greeter, which you obviously don't want to do. So anyway, so that was the week. For the rest of this series, like I said, I think I'd like to get this plane down to Rio Rio, what I like to do is maybe off camera, we'll get it close, and then our final flight with this aircraft, I hope, will be getting into Rio de Janeiro. And I say I hope because I just have to have enough cash to be able to get the next aircraft that I would like to rent. So I think I'm pretty close already. And then when I get back from training, I'm going to head straight to the DR, the Dominican Republic. My wife and I bought a apartment down there, and we're getting it ready for rent. We're going to go with an Airbnb. So, but we're going to go down there first. We need to get to the bank, do a couple other things. We'll take a little mini vacation because I'm off for about a week. No, I work hard. I swear. No, I don't. I don't at all. So I'm going to be gone for a little bit of time. So hopefully we'll get this one recorded up today. There should be no problems. The other thing that happened, I completely forgot the most important part of this for this channel. Microsoft Flight Simulator 2024, I guess that's what I'm playing, right? I don't need to say that. Kept crashing. I could not complete a flight. I was trying to get the aircraft down to this airport. I'll bet you it took me like 4 days. Just 2 solid days. I would get maybe 10 minutes into the flight. It would just crash the desktop. No error code. Other times, would not even load up. Or it'd load up and then crash as soon as it went to the start screen. So, very aggravating. I kept thinking it was random, but by about the 5th or 6th time that it continued to crash, I had to kind of admit defeat. I hadn't really brought in any new. I think the latest thing is I got that Coronado, the 185. So I think I'd like to do that with a new series that'll be starting with you guys shortly. So I finally had to admit defeat and do a complete wipe and reinstall. So that's what I did. It seems like that has solved my problem. But the other problem it generated is it's in this process. I thought it was going to save all my settings. Maybe there's a way to do that. You guys are smarter than me. But it didn't. And so I've had to readjust all my camera stuff. I've had just problem after problem getting everything ready. Getting everything re-downloaded into the community folder. So I still probably have some stuff I need to do. I have some of my controls are not working on my throttle quadrant, those upper switches, particularly like the parking brake, which I had set. So now I just look down and I can use it. I'll eventually get that stuff up and ready to go. But yeah, so it was a bit of a week. The good thing, what we want to do is climb up here, is because, check out the wind here. We got a little 10 knot headwind, of course. Seems like everywhere I go. It's like, isn't that life? You got a headwind everywhere. Should generally be a little bit faster up here the higher you get, and more importantly, check out our fuel flow. Down to 485. I should have measured it for you guys down at sea level. It's going to be more like 600 to 700 down at sea level. Right, so the higher you get, the less fuel you're going to use, the faster you're going to go. That's why we climb up so high. All right, for 27, for 28,000 to go. Still climbs out pretty decent speed, or just at a decent vertical speed. Right, it's holding around 1,500. All right. There we go. So we'll start leveling off. Now, I don't have auto throttles. In fact, let me just go ahead and hit auto throttle right here. And that should hold that speed. There we go. Try to bring it down a little bit. Bring the speed up. Slow down. We want to go as fast as we can. All right, so we made it to 28,000 feet. We still have another, we're looking at here, hour and 45 till we get down there or so. So I will probably cut it here, and I'll rejoin you on the approach, I don't think, I'm going to double check, let me come over here and double check. I don't think there's an actual approach here. Let's go. So the landing aircraft signal, go down here, runway approach star. Right, so there isn't. So we can use the visual for runway 8, and we'll take straight in. Right, so we can figure it out for us. We will insert that. We will activate it. Drag there, you're going to see a disco, so we go ahead and that's normal. We'll delete that waypoint, then activate again, and now we should have all the way down. All right, so I will leave you here, and I will rejoin you probably towards the end of this approach. Usually not a lot to see. We won't be flying a star in, so I'll just probably rejoin you as around 5,000 feet or so as we make our final descent into strange noise until I make the final approach into wherever the hell the name of that airport is. All right, guys, thanks for listening, and I will see you on the backside here, and for you, only a couple seconds. Okay, everybody, just joining you again. Coming up on about 5,000 feet, just knocked off the auto thrust as I get prepared, or auto throttles. I'm sure some Pilato Sky will correct me. Just getting ready to land. Still have a bit to go, so I'll keep my speed up for just a bit before I need to drop gear. I need to be roughly about 180 knots. I think it's 176 before I get my gear down. Mostly uneventful flight on the way in. I did manage to forget to get my vertical path down, so just use vertical speed and was able to catch it, and then was able to continue on regularly. Once again, I tend to knock off auto thrust, auto throttles when I start my descent. It just doesn't do a great job. Probably should record it for you, but just even in a steady state descent, 2,000 feet per minute, the throttles are just going up, down, so it just doesn't really do a great job holding it, and definitely when you start that initial descent. So what I normally do is just go ahead and kick off the auto throttles, power down a little bit, get myself into nice, good, steady state descent, and then re-engage, and it kind of does a little bit better job holding. But that's my only tip about using that. Just before the river. Over here. Yeah, we still got it. Fidgety. Just under 5 miles, so we'll just start pulling back a little bit on the power. So I selected 700, so once it hits the altitude constraint here of 22, it should continue down for us. All right, let's go ahead and get our gear down. Dirt strip up here, see. All right, under 160 knots, let's bring in our first notch of flaps. And we're going to pull down to about roughly about 10%. I think should work for us on our torque. That's an asphalt mellow, perfect. Driving us right into the ground, so let's kick the autopilot. Kick that off. Put in our second notch of flaps. why it did that. We would have followed. That would have drove us right into the ground, well short. Just gonna get ourselves back on path here a little bit. Last notch of flaps. Let's confirm that they're in. They are. Great. And about 10%. I apologize for my creaky rudder pedals. Need to get rid of them. All right. Knots faster, which means we're just going to float a little bit. No, don't pull up too hard.
Landing time logged.
Excellent landing, sir.
And some reversers. Kick it out. Thank you. Thank you very much. As if the clapping wasn't enough, I needed an audible. Let me know I landed good. Yes, when I'm flying in the airlines, we do measure each other's landings. They tell you technically not to worry about it, but I do. Unless I'm going on a real short runway, then I don't care. The goal is to land short and or if it's bad braking action. None of which is the case here. All right, so we'll just do a real quick taxi in, and then we will see where we stand. Like I said, the next aircraft will be the King Air, and I think I'm going to need approximately about $65,000 is my initial down payment to rent it. Obviously, we'll get some money back when we return this aircraft, or maybe not. You know, now that I think about it, we are really far south, so they will have to ferry that up. So that we'll have to take that into consideration. Might be a multi-hour rental. Now that I think about it, and it was this $4,300 an hour. I might need an extra 10, 12,000. I'll figure it all out and see if we can. Hopefully, I'm definitely gonna need probably one additional flight, and then hopefully the next one will be taking this into Rio, and from there we'll pick up the King Air, and then I think I'd like to go all the way south, maybe down to Buenos Aires, and then we will probably reverse course and go maybe head up the spine and get all the way up into the Americas. We'll figure it out. Pull that out later. All right, have that button. All right, let's pause that. Let's go up here and seatbelt, smoking, pulse, landing. Oh, who didn't have their taxiway on? I'm gonna get dinged for that. Leave the beacon on, and we'll pull power.
Engine off time logged. The flight is finished. It has been monitored by OnAir.
All right, let's see how we did. Oh, what did I do for my safety bonus? Except for, all right, screw up the lights, that's okay. And let's go back out to the main page here. See what kind of cash I'm sitting on. About 50,000. All right, so I'll probably pick up another mission off camera, and then we will hopefully the mission we broadcast, or my next episode for us, will be landing in Rio. Maybe we'll do a little city tour if we can, and then we'll pick up the new aircraft. All right, once again, everyone, thanks for watching. I appreciate all the support. Please leave a like, subscribe, and comment, and I will see you all in the next one. Take care for now. Bye.